What is up, everybody? Purple and Gold podcast for Monday, May the 4th. LSU baseball sweeps South Carolina over the weekend. Tigers are 28 and 21 overall, 9 and 15 in the SEC. The freshmen and young players continue to shine. Mason Braun, Omar Cerna, Jack Ruckert, Marcos Paz with a really nice start on Saturday. Zach Cowan, 6 innings of one-hit ball on Sunday. LSU really put it all together this weekend in sweeping South Carolina. I know South Carolina is not the greatest team in the league. They were one game ahead of LSU coming into the weekend, though. And so it was nice for LSU to get the sweep. So let's talk about mathematics, and let's just talk about where LSU is in terms of any thoughts of playing in the NCAA tournament. So the Tigers are 9 and 15 in the league. I think coming into the year, you would have thought that 13 SEC wins would be the barometer, and so let's examine that for a minute. LSU is 55 in the RPI, and two of the teams that they would directly be competing with for a potential NCAA tournament berth would be Tennessee and Kentucky. Tennessee and Kentucky are back-to-back in the RPI at 34 and 35. They both sit at 13 and 11 in conference play. What I would tell you is this. I think at the bare minimum, LSU would need to win 4 of their remaining 6 regular season conference games. Ideally, that would be 2 against Georgia, who's number 16 in the RPI, and 2 out of 3 against Florida, who's number 12 in the RPI. If LSU was somehow able to do that, and look, Georgia is 18 and 6 in the league. They have a 2.5 game lead for the regular season conference title with 6 games to go. If LSU won 1 game this weekend, that would be something of an upset. If they were able to win 2 games, it would be fantastic. So let's assume they're only able to win 1 out of 3. They would then need to more than likely sweep Florida at home, which again, with Florida's top 2 pitchers, just doesn't seem likely. So I think LSU's going to come up a little short here. But let's say they were able to beat Georgia 2 out of 3 and beat Florida 2 out of 3. I would imagine that their RPI will have shot up into the low 40s, if not the high 30s. And I think you would go to Hoover with the idea of winning 1 game and it probably getting you in. So one of the things that the sweep against South Carolina did, as opposed to the 2 out of 3, is it gave you a chance. It gave you, mathematically there is a chance, however unreasonable that it is. I have a feeling that LSU is going to win 1 out of 3 against Georgia. I do think they'll beat Florida 2 out of 3. They'll end up 12 and 18, and I think we're really going to be talking about 2 games. I think we're going to be talking about the Saturday Oklahoma game where Jack Ruckert fumbled what would have been a double play in the 8th inning that allowed Oklahoma the opening to score the 3 runs and take the lead. And the Friday night, early evening game against Mississippi State, Milam missed a bag on the double play. It would have been bases empty, 2 outs. LSU was up by 1. Instead, there was a runner at second and only 1 out. Mississippi State tied the game. They eventually walked it off, and then they won the next 2 days in come-from-behind fashion as well. And look, there are other games that LSU pulled out of the fire. LSU was down 7-0 on a Sunday to Kentucky. LSU was down to their last out on a Sunday against Tennessee before eventually winning that game late in extra innings. So you kind of are what your record says you are. But I think those, particularly those two games right now, where LSU sort of just couldn't close the deal defensively, is probably what is keeping LSU from realistic NCAA tournament discussion. Shout out to the LSU women's softball team. They swept Auburn to conclude the regular season. They finished 13-11 in the SEC. They will play Georgia on Wednesday night in the SEC tournament. Their RPI is 10. If they beat Georgia, they would play the number 1 seed Oklahoma. You'd like to see that happen, I think, from an LSU perspective. Go ahead and beat Georgia, get a game in against Oklahoma. I think LSU's solidly on pace to host a regional. And then let's get to a bit of recruiting news. Ahmad Hudson, the number 1 tight end in the class of 2027, and a top 20 overall player, also a two-sport standout. He's a big basketball prospect as well. Committed to LSU yesterday. Ahmad Hudson, 6'6", 6'7", 230. He'll be the perfect handoff from Trey'Dez Green. He will play basketball at LSU also. That will get figured out. His dad, Antonio Hudson, played basketball at LSU under John Brady. He's a friend and a good guy, and so I'm very happy for Hud and his family. And Ahmad did say he's shutting it down. No more visits. No more. Nothing else. He's home. So I think you look at Peyton Houston, who's been very active in recruiting. You look at Ahmad Hudson. I think some of these Louisiana guys will take the reins on this recruiting class. I fully expect LSU to flip 5-star wide receiver from Brother Martin, Easton Royal. He's currently committed to Texas. However, he's taken multiple visits to LSU recently. Lamar Brown, Peyton Houston, and others are pressuring him to flip. I believe he will flip shortly before the summer is out. LSU's also the potential favorite for 5-star offensive lineman Albert Simeon from the Lake Charles area. Miguel Whitney, a receiver from St. Aug. I think the Louisiana guys in this class will really be good, and I think LSU has a chance to land most, if not all, of the ones they want. The number 1 linebacker in the class, a 5-star, Caleb Henderson. LSU also, I think, is trending favorably for him. So I think LSU's football recruiting class is looking way up. They're like the 7th-ranked class right now, and they only have 5 commitments. So when they get up to 17, 18, 19, 20 commitments, they have a shot to be the number 1, 2, 3 recruiting class overall. I think I saw a stat yesterday that if LSU signs Hudson and some of these other guys, they will have signed or have committed 8 5-stars since Lane Kiffin took over. And I think Lane Kiffin signed 6 5-stars in his 5 years or whatever it was at Ole Miss. So you're seeing the difference in what LSU can do for Lane Kiffin, what Lane Kiffin can do for LSU. I fully expect LSU's football recruiting class to be among the best in the nation, and I suspect that will lead to much more balance next year, as Lane has already alluded to. The situation of having to take 40-plus players in the transfer portal, even though it was great and it's an all-time haul to get the Lane Kiffin era off and running, that's not the way ideally you would like to build this. I think you'd like to have 20 or so high schoolers and 20 or so out of the portal. That'll do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow, LSU and Tulane tomorrow night, LSU's final midweek game of the year at Alex Box Stadium. Tigers could ill afford to lose this game. Tulane always will play LSU tough, and that is a game we will preview tomorrow. LSU needs every win they can down the stretch to keep whatever faint NCAA tournament hopes alive that they do have. As always, please like, subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. I did want to mention I went on Talking Sports on WRBE last Friday at noon Central with Bruce Thornton. We're thinking about making that a weekly spot. It was a lively conversation. We talked a lot about college baseball, a lot about LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Southern Miss, the state of college baseball, the state of college athletics. Excuse me. I thought it was a really, really great conversation, and I will let you guys know on all of my social media outlets if and when we do that again. So as always, be good to one another, always boot up, and always, 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 go Tigers.